Hi, everyone. We're excited to have you. I can't see everyone's faces, but you're welcome to have your video on or off, whichever one. Um, this workshop is the first one in a part of the broader Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation community. I've put the fall workshop schedule in the chat. If you have issues opening it, let me know in case you all want to plan ahead for any others that you might want to attend. I'll also put a survey link in the chat for you to fill out after the workshop. If you'll take a couple minutes to fill that out at the end, we will use your feedback and try to make these more relevant and helpful for you. The providers today are Sarah Goforth and Jessica Salmon. Sarah is the Executive Director of the Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. She also teaches the graduate level New Venture Development course. And Jessica Salmon teaches the Macmillan Innovation Studio course. So just a quick reminder to make sure that all of your mics are on mute and we will get going.
Thank you, Natalie. Well, it's great to see so many of you here. I wish we could be in person, but we're going to try to make this fun and interactive. This is a workshop about team formation, and I am a big believer in the power of teams for identifying and solving meaningful problems, for having a meaningful life, for getting things done, but it's not always easy. And so Jessica and I are on the same team, and we've learned a lot collectively over the years about how to form strong teams and how to lead them. So we're going to share some things with you. And I'm going to start with a personal story in that case. I was reflecting on the different teams I've been a part of in my career. So I've been an entrepreneur, part of a very small team of people working in science communications. I've worked at really big companies, the Discovery Channel and a big nonprofit, the Smithsonian. But when I reflected on the best team I've ever been a part of, I realized it was actually, I'm going to share my screen, these people. These are my siblings, and I'm sure a lot of you are dealing with COVID-related issues in your families right now. I've heard so many students facing so many different kinds of unexpected challenges, and that was the case for us too. Our mom has multiple myeloma, so she's immunocompromised, and she can't be exposed to COVID, but she needs people to take care of her. And we're like, crap, we're all busy. We need to go to work. We need to get things done. How are we going to manage her care in this situation? So we got together and we're like, okay, we're a pretty smart group. We can handle this. She has a ton of medical appointments. She needed a place to live. She couldn't live by herself. So the person she would live with had to be totally quarantined. So these are, some of our skill sets. My sister Robin, she's a chemist, super smart, brilliant in the medical field. My sister Carol, she's a law professor here at the U of A, and she's a cryptocurrency expert. We're like, that's probably not going to come in handy in this situation. Me, I teach entrepreneurship. I can work from home. I do most of my job from home. And I had years of experience as a science communicator. I'm an introvert, but in my family, I'm definitely the most social butterfly of anybody else. My brother Calvin, he's an engineer. He worked at NASA. He's an investor. He has 4 kids though, so he's got a really busy life. He's also hard of hearing, which creates some challenges in caregiving situations. But he's super organized, so that's great. When we really figured things out and decided how we were going to work together to get my mom to all her appointments, these are the roles that we took on. And we've pretty much abided by them. My sister Robin, she's the boss of all of us. She keeps us organized. She makes decisions when we have any kind of conflict. She's the tiebreaker. Hey, Jessica, I'm just kicking off with the story. We all really listened to her. She was actually the first person to diagnose my mom's disease before the doctors did. My sister Carol said, you know what, I'm an empty nester. My kids are out of college and I can work from home. So Mom, you can live with me. So they've been living together for the last 6 months in quarantine. I'm pretty good at dealing with the doctors and the nurses. So I take her to her appointments and I, navigate the conversations between the oncologists and the other physicians she has to work with. And I love doing that because I get to spend time with her. And my brother keeps all the spreadsheets. And if you've ever had a personal medical situation that was complex, you know that it can be a lot of work to stay organized. So he manages the bills, the appointments calendar, make sure that somebody has a task assigned. And we have kept ourselves going that way. although there's one other person who's not our sibling. She's kind of like our adopted sibling. She's another Sarah G, interestingly enough. She has been through this before. So her mom had the same disease, had it for 20 years. She became an expert in all the symptoms, all the conditions, all the pharmaceutical resources you need access to, and she's our secret weapon. So she's you call in an expert person when we have a situation we don't know what to deal with. And we're surviving okay. So I think Jessica is going to reinforce this point, but I wanted to start by saying when we're talking teams, we're not just talking in the workplace. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to you, Jess.
Great, welcome. Thank you guys for coming. We're so excited to have you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, perfect. So I'll start with first, sorry I'm a little bit late, but I'm so happy to be here with you this afternoon and share just a little bit of what Sarah and I have heard the last several years, you know, from undergraduate teams and graduate teams, teams in corporate, teams in startups. And like Sarah said, this expands way beyond just a team at the U of A. Your life will be teams from here on out. So if you guys want to just shout out or raise your hand or chat, I think I saw a couple of chats that said people teams they were a part of this semester, but anybody else want to share what team they're a part of, or if they're on a class project or what they're doing this semester with the team? Kyle said he's in the venture intern program. What else? What teams or class projects are you on? Just shout it out.
I'm doing social entrepreneurship.
Okay, social entrepreneurship. What else?
I'm also in the Venture Intern program and taking a class on social entrepreneurship.
Okay, social entrepreneurship. Graduate nursing student working on a DMP project. Okay, we've got software development team, Macmillan team, capstone project. What else? What else are people working on? Biological engineering design team, chem research lab, Macmillan team, social entrepreneurship. Awesome. This is so cool to see. People from across the university working on a team. And I will say in a lot of these classes or the projects that you're working on, the number one issue that always comes up is team dynamics or really getting the team successful. And so we are excited to kind of share some tips and tricks today to talk about how you create a successful team in whatever project that you're working on. So thank you for sharing. A lot of social entrepreneurship, some PhD student. I love seeing all the different projects people are working on. After Sarah and I may follow up with you on if we can get insight into the project you're working on. We love learning about new things happening across the university. So Google did a study. It was called Rework, and they looked across all of their teams. And you think Google, so you think they have a lot of teams working on a lot of different things. And they really did an in-depth analysis in terms of what are the 5 attributes or 5 characteristics of a successful team. I've kind of given you the answer here with this slide, but it was very clear that it was no individual person that made a team successful. It was the team creating an environment that is psychologically safe, and that the team trusted each other. So psychologically safe is kind of a big word, and sometimes, you know, we don't always know exactly what that means. It's more popular actually in kind of corporate terms and corporate settings. But when I say psychologically safe, what does that mean? This will be highly interactive, by the way. This is not just sit and learn, so you're used to participating. What do you guys think of when you think of psychologically safe? Does anybody know?
When you feel comfortable to share your opinions and ideas with others.
Comfortable, space to express yourself.
Yeah, it's like that Planet Fitness, like judgment-free zone type thing.
There you go. I love that analogy. Judgment zone. You can come in and work out no matter what level you're at.
Yeah, knowing that everyone has everyone else's best interest at heart.
Everyone has everyone else's best interest at heart. That's great. Yeah, so it's a safe place that you feel you can trust people. I think that's the biggest thing. So when you think about a team, or you think about the class project you're working on, or the you know, even the startup you're thinking of forming, when you think about the first priority, it's to build trust and to really get those people on your side, and more from the standpoint of getting to know. A lot of you said safe to express yourself. And so really thinking through how do you get people to trust you? And a lot of that is just getting to know people and really being at the heart of who people are. Psychological safety was number one. And the next four are probably more what you would imagine would be a high impact team. Dependability, structure, meaning, impact. And Sarah and I will probably touch on a little bit of all of these in the next couple of sections. So we won't go into detail of those there. But I will say, they said if nothing else was present, you had a psychologically safe team, you were bound to be successful. And so regardless of the other attributes, this idea of psychological safety and trust team is the most important thing as part of the process. So we'll start there. We send a link to the Google Rework study after this. As part of the last slide, we have a resources slide. So we wanted to start out with this study because it's really important to the start of teams. As Sarah said before, let's see. There we go. As Sarah said before, she gave the example of her family. Team dynamics and team will be a part of the rest of your life. And so no matter what you want to do when you grow up or after college, you will be part of a team. And so all of the things we talk about today will be really important for how you do the rest of your career. I'll hand it back over to Sarah to talk about maybe you are thinking of starting a team from scratch or pulling in people that you have not worked with before. And so she'll talk a little bit about starting a team from the beginning.
Thank you, Jessica. So I kicked off with a COVID story, and I want to hear from all of you on some of the problems that you see in the world related to COVID. You could do this exercise around any set of problems, but I just picked this one since it's so present in our minds. So hard to find Clorox wipes. What else?
Misinformation.
Oh yeah, so much misinformation.
I know there's a lot of like food shortages and stuff like that. I mean, not here, but I know in general there are. I heard about this one story where like a food bank ran out of food at like 5 a.m., which is why I really wanted to help with the Tyson project. It's a really pressing issue.
Very pressing issue, food shortages. I love this. Somebody, Jet, said, very difficult to form new relationships. Yeah, everyone's so isolated, not enough PPE, supply chain problems, that's connected to the food, long lines to get tested. What else?
Missing out on events.
Missing out on events, yep. Mental problems are getting worse due to isolation. Yeah, there's some studies starting to come out about the effects of kids in their isolation from friends. Inconsistent rules, lack of internet access for some students. Okay, no shortage of problems. Okay, so you have lots of things to choose from. I would like you to all take a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and write down 3 skills that you have, maybe the top 3, that are relevant to solving any of those issues. Just reflect on yourself and your strengths. Don't think about your weaknesses or your flaws. Think about what you could bring to any of those problems and write them down on a piece of paper or on your screen or something. And then give me a thumbs up or put a thumbs up in the chat when you've done that. So a couple thumbs up. Take 10 more seconds. Okay. I'm feeling the my intelligence growing by the minute, my ability to do things by the minute, thinking about all the skills and imagining the things that you're bringing based on what you said before about your projects. So keep in mind these problems that we just threw out here. if you want to jot something down, do, because in a minute you're going to go to a breakout room where you won't see this list in the chat. Think about the problems that we just discussed. And in a minute, we'll break you out into random groups of 4 or 5. Once you're in your group, you'll have 7 minutes, and I want you to compare notes on your skills. So you can go one by one, you can have a discussion however you want to handle it, but I want you all to share what your skills are, and then think about what you could do if you were a team, this random group of 4 or 5 people, what you could do to address one of those problems. And you can pick whatever problem you want to address based on the composition of your group. So I see a couple of the rooms only had 2 people. And then I think I noticed one person was in a room by themselves. Is that the case for anybody? Were you in the room by yourself? No? Let's start with the room that had 2 people in it. So Elizabeth and whoever else was in your room. What did you come up with for a team of 2?
I think I have my computer's not acting right, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
So we're still figuring out how to navigate through the this actual program. So I had lost sight of what the questions were, but we discussed just our personal traits and then some different issues and things. As a nurse, I just added that I feel like as a compassionate caregiver and trying to be a good communicator and trying to find solutions for people, I noted that there was like the shortage of PPE and things, but there's so much great financial concern and almost like the public feel like they're in a crisis, like they don't really know. They don't really know. Everything's so unpredictable. They're just really unsure. And so I feel like that fear from patients is what I talked about.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Just trying to help patients through that.
Yep, definitely no shortage of issues there. Let's hear from another team who had a really interesting diversity of skills in your group. Jet?
I think our group did.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Who was that?
It was me, Haley.
Haley, hi.
I'm not entirely sure the names of the people in our group. We had a bit of variety from several different sources.
What kind of variety? Give me some examples.
Can someone else in the group speak up? Someone's a nursing person.
So healthcare expertise, caregiving, what else?
I'm a mechanical engineering major, and it sounded like the other 2 people in the group were something else.
Okay, great. Definitely diversity there. Who was able to tackle a really tough or interesting problem that you would not have been able to even think about approaching as an individual? Jet, I saw a big smile on your face. I feel like you have something to say. Yes, you. But you're muted.
I have a mute on my mic, so I got confused. I guess to the most recent question, like the really difficult problem, it was mentioned that misinformation is a big problem at this time. And hold on, I have the participants list open, but I don't see, I've already forgotten names.
You don't need to worry about names, just talk about your discussion.
Yeah, one person was like, yeah, well, I don't know what to leverage, but my major's marketing, so maybe I could help like start a blog or do something to help tackle that issue of misinformation that's so ubiquitous in the world, especially right now.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any other good discussion that needs to be shared? Are we going to save the world?
One thing we talked about, Sarah, is with all the diverse skills, we had a pretty diverse group too, is it takes a lot more time to make people feel included as part of the team forming process. Otherwise, you just are so focused, like all those COVID tasks, like we just wanted to get to the task and like address it versus like, okay, if I pull you in, I pull you in, I pull you in, and we talked about pulling each other in from different spheres, how long that would take, but we would probably come out with a much better outcome as part of it.
Yeah, that is a great insight. And it actually speaks to the first what I consider the first pillar of building a good team. So if your conversations felt a little stunted and you're not a team yet, that's going to be the case. It's really not to the point until you know each other and have a dialogue that you'll really be able to start talking about what you can accomplish. And I just want to share 4 things to think about as you do that. So the first thing, and the point of this exercise, is really about diversity of skills, backgrounds, disciplines. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's really true. An interdisciplinary team can accomplish so much more than a team of like-minded people. There's a lot of evidence that shows this. So if you know Steve Jobs, who here has heard of Steve Wozniak? Just raise your hand, or a few of you. Yeah, so Steve Wozniak was Steve Jobs' business partner, and Wozniak was the engineer that got everything done at Apple. Steve Jobs was the visionary. He was the evangelist for the ideas. And this guy, Simon Sinek, at one point said, every team needs somebody who's all about the why and somebody who's all about the how. And the why person was Jobs. He was the person with the vision, the passion, the ability to bring other people along. And Wozniak was the how, with all the hard skills that made it happen. Either one of those two would have never created Apple on their own. But it's not just about skills, it's also about ethnic and racial diversity. And there are a lot of studies that show that diverse teams are more likely to succeed. And in fact, they're more likely to get to the truth, to re-examine facts faster, and to stay objective longer. So I thought I would tell you about one study. This was a study that was done in Texas and Singapore, so 2 very different places. A group of scientists put people who knew a lot about financial stuff in sort of simulated markets, and they asked them to price stocks. So basically to estimate what the different prices of stocks were. And the participants were placed either in ethnically diverse teams or really similar, homogenous teams. And the researchers found that the individuals who were part of the diverse teams were, get this, 60% more likely to price the stocks correctly. Same information, whereas those in the homogenous groups were more prone to pricing errors and other flaws. And there are a lot of reasons for why this might be the case, but study after study after study shows that when you're in a group that includes somebody who's not like you, you're more likely to question the facts of the situation and examine them and come to an objective, accurate conclusion. So diversity is really important to think about, not just disciplinary, meaning if you're the mechanical engineer, it's great to be working with a nurse, but also ethnicity and gender and other forms of diversity. So secondly, I like to think that it's important to look beyond the obvious. So the obvious pool of people to join your team might be the other people in your class, or the other people in your program, or the other freshmen, or the people in your dorm. But the further out from that group you can go, the chances of finding the right members will be higher. So I have a friend who's a faculty member, and he's a mechanical engineer. And one day I went to a meeting with him, and it was hilarious because, so he's an entrepreneur, starts a lot of companies, he's an inventor. And he was late to the meeting, and he walked in and he was all flustered. He said, "I'm so sorry, I just came from my lunch in the poultry sciences department." And I was like, "What were you doing in the poultry sciences department? You're in Bell, and that's like the other side of campus. Who were you meeting with over there?" And he said, "Oh no, I wasn't meeting with anybody over there. I just went over there to eat my lunch." And he intentionally, isn't that great? He intentionally would go over to that building and other buildings that had nothing to do with anything he was working on, just to expose himself to that environment, just to potentially meet somebody, a faculty member or a student who is doing something really different. So it's really no surprise to me that he was an entrepreneur and able to form teams and get innovations into the world through the market, ability to talk to different people like investors and business people to get his technologies out there. It wasn't something that he was born with. He exposed himself to people who are really unlike him. Cool guy. Okay, so pillar number 3, be patient. Forming a team is hard, and it's important to have the right members and not to just jump and try to just get the team formed and get the thing done. I had a boss at one time. I was hiring somebody on my team, and she said to me something that I'll never forget, so I love to share this piece of advice. She said, when you hire someone, which is kind of like bringing somebody onto your team, right? It's kind of like planting a tree in your front yard. And if you plant the wrong tree, you will spend the rest of your days fertilizing it, and pruning it and finding it in the way of your very good view. And eventually, chances are you will have to pay somebody to come dig it out. And that's really expensive and painful and awful. On the other hand, if you find the right tree and you plant it in your yard, takes a little bit of water, takes a little bit of sunlight, and then it grows and it blooms and it blossoms and you get to enjoy it forevermore. And I thought that's a great analogy, but what that means is it takes time to identify, okay, where am I trying to go? What skills do I bring to the table and what do I need? What shared sense of purpose might I have with this other person? It takes time to find that person and it requires some patience. Even under the pressure of being in a class, I recommend waiting it out until you feel really good about who you've got. And then finally, discuss your why. So this gets to the purpose thing that Jessica mentioned earlier. You can all have the same sort of skills, interests, requirements. Maybe it's for your group program or your class or your capstone or something. But if you don't, at the end of the day, want to go to the same place and share a sense of purpose or a passion, you're going to find conflict. It's inevitable. So in my world, I work with student entrepreneurs. This happens a lot when there's a team where one person, let's say they're creating a medical device. One person has in their mind, we're going to grow this company as fast as we can. That's called scale in entrepreneurship. And we're going to exit. Somebody's going to buy our company and we're going to get rich and our investors are going to get rich. That's a perfectly fine vision. But another person on that very same team solving the very same problem might have in their mind, okay, we're going to create this device and start a company and we're going to build this company and I'm going to work there for the rest of my life. Those two visions, completely incompatible with each other. So discuss your why early, often, always. Keep doing it. It's essential. And those are the 4 pillars. And I don't want to invite questions because I don't want to steal Jessica's time. I'll just hand it over to you.
Right. Thank you, Sarah. So Sarah talked about really building a team and forming a team and the 4 pillars for successful teams that are just starting up. If you're already on a team and maybe you don't have a way that you don't have an opportunity to choose who's on your team, but you just kind of get put on a team. I kind of formulated, okay, you're in that situation. Here's some things to ask or some things to prompt as you guys think through, where do you start? And when you really think about that first part of Google, it was psychological safety and really creating trust with your team. And so the first really question to ask is, who are my team members and what do they care about? This was something that was really evident to me when I actually first started. Before the University of Arkansas, I worked at Walmart and Sam's Club for almost 8 years. And one of my roles, my very first role coming out of college, actually, I was really focused on just getting my job done. So I wanted to prove to my boss that I could do it really well. And I would come in, I would sit at my desk, and all of a sudden I wanted to get things done or get things from different people. And I would send, emails and say, hey, I'm, following up on this. I still need this from you. And I would go back and forth and back and forth. And I wasn't getting things from people. They just wouldn't respond to my emails or they wouldn't send me what they needed. And all of a sudden my performance was starting to be hindered because I wasn't getting things from my team. And I talk about the time that I turned my chair around, and it was a real thing. I kind of would look around with the people who are talking and I was like, oh, they're just talking, like I need to actually get my work done. But I actually turned my chair around and it was a physical thing. But once I did that and actually started talking to people on my team, I realized how important it was to get to know people and to have empathy for them. And all of a sudden, I realized the person that was sitting across from me, right across from me on my team, was going through a really hard personal experience. She was dealing with cancer in her family. And then someone right next to me on my team had something they were going through with one of their children. And all of a sudden, these people were real. They weren't just people I was emailing to get things from. And so I talk about that story because that's the time, turning my chair around, that I realized people are people and they need connection and they need relationship in order to actually respect and respond to what you ask them to do. And so that was my big aha in terms of having empathy for people. So my first thought when you have this team, spend the first meeting just asking, hey, who are you? Like, what do you like? What are your hobbies? Who's your family? Like, just get to know each other. If you have to have a socially distanced, kind of meet and greet where you can get to know people, or whatever that looks like, I would highly encourage you to just take the time to get to know people, because trust and psychological safety is really important. I will say too, after I turned my chair around, I got all the responses I needed from people. They would immediately email me back. And so it totally changed the relationship, my relationship with those team members. The next thing we kind of touched on was Sarah's exercise, but what role can you play based on your strengths? And so don't come in and try to play a role that's not what your strengths are, and that you're just trying to prove to someone, or you're trying to kind of be competitive with someone. I think in teams, we just automatically go through either like, hey, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines for this one, or hey, I'm going to lead this and be like the one being the competitive jockeying person. We usually see both roles, at least from what I've seen with undergrads. They take on one of those roles. And so play to your strengths. What are the strengths you identified even in that breakout session, and kind of go back to those and say, okay, these are the strengths I play. How can I play that role on that team? The next one is establish an aligned goal. I think this can be seen in terms of any sports team that we watch, not that we are watching much sports these days, but if you think of the sports analogy, what do they have in common? They have an aligned goal. They want to win, or they want to, accomplish the task. And so when you think about your team and setting up your team, and you've been put on this class project, you don't know each other from Adam, get to know each other. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, what do we want to accomplish with this? Everyone will have a different motivation. Some people will be there just to get the check that they've done it. Some people, want this for a resume builder, or they want it for something else. What is their goal? And how do you kind of have that aligned front as a team that you can all work towards? And then the last one is communicate. So how many of you on those teams have chosen a communication platform for how you want to communicate over the semester? Just raise your hand. Who's chosen a communication platform? Okay, just because I'm curious, chat or shout out, what communication platforms have you settled on as a team? GroupMe, Slack, GroupMe, what else? Okay, a lot of GroupMes. Teams, GroupMe, Box.
What's Discord?
That one. Allison, you want to explain Discord?
So Discord, it's like mostly for gamers, but
okay.
I got one because like all my friends are all gamers, and it's basically like Teams, but for gamers. Yeah. And then you can like
awesome.
make servers and have channels and share your screen and everything, so it works pretty well for us.
That's so cool. See, Sarah and I, this is actually customer discovery for us. We usually figure out something. We put a problem out there, so that's part of it. Okay, so a lot of people use Discord. That's awesome. WhatsApp, got a WhatsApp, Teams, GroupMe. So communication is really important. If you get on a platform that no one else is, like you're not on for anything else and you don't usually check it, you're not gonna get the response you want. So really think about that communication platform, and that's really important that you use it. And I would say use it because we're in this virtual environment. One of the things that I would challenge you with is how do you use it in a way that actually gets to know people too? So can you chat, say, hey everyone, having a great day. Do anyone want to meet up? Or, has anybody else struggling with this assignment? Like use it to actually communicate not just tasks, but again, going back to that empathy, circling back around, how do you actually use the communication tool to communicate and to get to know each other better as part of the process? So those are the 4 things I would say. If you're already on a team, you're put together with people you don't know maybe, or you're in a class and you're assigned a group, you know, who is on your team, have empathy, get to know them, understand the strengths you have on the team, and be dependable. Establish an aligned goal, and then find a communication platforms and communicate often, even if it's not about the project that you're working on. So we have one more breakout assignment, and what I will do is I'm going to share in the chat box a, let's see if it actually did it. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop sharing so I can do this. So I'm gonna share in the chat box a, file, and you guys will be sent to breakout rooms of 3 or 4, and the scenario is that you will be shipwrecked, and you will have 15 items that you will be responsible for ranking in terms of which of these items will help save you the most. And so I'm going to upload this file here. And the first part, I'll give you just a couple minutes to actually, okay, it's saying network. So actually, I'll just share my screen again and have you guys write them down because it's saying that my network is not working. So bear with me for a second. Okay. Everybody write these 15 items down. A sextant, a shaving mirror, a quantity of mosquito netting, a 25-liter container of water, a case of Army rations, maps of the Atlantic Ocean, a floating seat cushion, a 10-liter can of oil, a small transistor radio, a 20 square foot of opaque plastic sheeting, a can of shark repellent, 1 bottle of proof rum, of 160 proof rum, sorry, 15 feet of nylon rope, and then 2 boxes of chocolate bars and an ocean fishing kit and pole. I might try to, so did anybody not get them? I'm gonna try and.
I just pasted them in the chat, but can you fact check me? Because I was typing fast.
Perfect.
And then you guys can just copy that and paste it into a Word doc or something, because I don't think the chat ports over with you to your breakout room. I don't know, does it?
I don't think it does.
Copy it, yeah.
Okay, so copy it, and then you're going to individually rank 1 through 15 these items. That what will be the most important would be ranked number 1. What would be least important, you don't really care, would be ranked number 15. You're gonna have about 5 minutes, we'll say 7 minutes, because we'll give you a little extra time. 7 minutes to rank them as a group, and then we'll come back together and I'll give you the answers.
I cannot wait to see what you guys think is most important.
We'll quickly wrap this up because I know we're supposed to be wrapping up soon. Make sure you're on mute. I'm going to reveal the rankings. So look at your rankings that you ranked as a team. The sextant was number 15. It's useless without relevant tables and a chronometer. A shaving mirror. Any guesses on the shaving mirror? Hold up your fingers. How many did you think? 4, some, okay. It was number 1. Of all items, the mirror is absolutely critical. It is the most powerful tool you have for communicating presence in sunlight, a simple 5 to 7 million candle power of light. Quantity of mosquito netting is 14. There are no mosquitoes in the middle of the, I didn't say this, but Atlantic Ocean, and the netting is useless for anything else. 20-liter container of water is number 3. Vital to restore fluids lost through perspiration. A case of Army rations is 4. This is your basic food intake. Maps of Atlantic Ocean is 13. It's worthless without navigation equipment. A floating seat cushion would be 9. It's useful as a life preserver if someone fell over. The 10-liter can of oil is number 2, the second most critical item for signaling. The mixture will float on water and can be ignited using the matches. Small transistor radio is number 12. You would be out of range of any radio station. 20 square feet of opaque plastic sheeting is number 5, can be used to collect rainwater and shelter from the wind and waves. A can of shark repellent is 10 to repel the sharks, of course. 1 bottle of rum is 11. It contains 80% alcohol, which means it can be used as an antiseptic for injuries, otherwise of little value. The nylon rope is 8, could be used to lash people or equipment together to prevent being washed overboard. 2 boxes of chocolate is 6, your reserve food supply. And the fishing kit is number 7, ranked lower than chocolate. There is no guarantee you will catch any fish. So how many groups? 10. 10 of the answers right? Anybody, show of hands? 10, 9, 8, 9. Okay, some of you guys don't have your cameras on, so we can't go through.
Put in the chat,
Yeah.
you know, like your estimate of how many you got right. We're dead. None?
3. John was the only one in a group. Anybody else? 5-ish, a 5-ish. Okay. 5, 4. Okay. So the purpose of this exercise is really, we ran out of time, so we didn't give you the full amount of time. But as a group collaborating, you probably got way more than you would have if you just were an individual. So as an individual, you only have your limited knowledge of those 15 things. But as a group, you maybe had someone who had knowledge of something like what a sextant is. I had no idea. That could have contributed to the conversation. So the whole idea is, how do you put it all together and really work together collaboratively as a group to achieve a goal? And you're much better together than you are apart. It just takes a lot of time and effort to invest in those relationships. And you also learned, if you were lost at sea, here's the ranking of the 15 things you would need to actually survive. But thank you for bearing with us on a Wednesday afternoon. We have many more of these coming up. We're excited to be with you this semester, and I know it feels a little bit different being virtual, but we have a lot of great providers and speakers planned for you. Natalie has put a survey in the chat function. If you'll just go ahead and take 2 minutes to fill out the survey, it really helps us, because we actually plan for the next semester and what topics we should include. So give us feedback, and we really appreciate it. If there's any other questions, feel free to stay in chat. We'd love to answer any questions you have specifically about your team, or if you have specific team dynamics that you want to talk through. Sarah and I are more than happy to stay. So otherwise, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time at the next virtual workshop, which is next Wednesday.
Good to see you all.
Bye.